Hi, Christian here. Today we're going to do a talk for Leeds Listening Room. It's a quick talk on some basic DIY tools to have in the home to do some small, simple jobs yourself. So first of all, on the table, over here we've got some health and safety gear. Gloves, if you prefer. A lot of people don't like to use them. These have got impact protectors on, so if you missed with the hammer, it will take some of the impact out and help your hands hopefully not break anything. A dust mask if you want, some jobs can get dusty. Safety goggles, a couple of different types here. These I prefer, very easy to use. These have got more of an all-round protection for any dust going in. A couple of vents as well to try and stop them steaming up. They always steam up with me, that's why I prefer this type, they're a bit more open. So moving on, if you imagine you're going to put a set of shelves up on a wall, we've got a stud locator. Try and find some wires, some pipe work in there, wooden battens in there. We don't want to drill into a water pipe or a wire. If you find anything, you need to go from there and work out where to put your shelves. A decent tape measure always comes in handy, just to measure everything, the length of the shelf, the length of the wall, where it's going, work out any small projects. A decent pencil for marking up. I prefer a pencil over a pen. A pen is more permanent on the wall. And if it's going to be somewhere you're going to see the mark afterwards, it might be harder to wash off. You might damage the paintwork washing it off. We've got a decent right angle there with a ruler. The ruler can come out of this one, which is quite handy if you do some very small measuring. It's got 90 degrees, it's got 45 degrees. There is a spirit level bubble in there if you wanted a mini spirit level to help you. Onto spirit levels, that's your common size. It's a good size as that one, comes in handy. You can get a lot smaller ones, they don't have to be too expensive. But bear in mind, some cheaper ones, the bubbles aren't always as accurate. Moving on again, onto drills, for drilling the holes for the plugs for the shelves. I prefer a cordless drill. We're not tripping over any wires, it's a lot easier I find to use. A wire drill is fine, but you've got to bear in mind, you've got a wire dangling. You don't want it in the way, it can be a trip hazard. If you are using any wired tools, make sure the wires are routed out of the way, somewhere safely where you can work. So it's always good to take your time and prepare that before you start. When I'm drilling, if you're drilling into a ceiling, a nice little hack I've got there, it's just a plastic lid off a spray can. I think it was off shaving foam, to be honest. When I'm drilling up into the ceiling, the dust will go into here. You've still got your goggles on anyway. It can just reduce a bit of mess. If I'm drilling onto a wall, I can stick this onto the wall. If I'm drilling above it, the dust will go into there, so it can help make less of a mess. So drill bits we'll be using. These are a standard drill bit. These are for metal, for wood, any practical use really. They're the common drill bit. We've got a specialised wood drill bit. It's got a point in there, stops it crawling along the wood, it gives you a more accurate cut. Masonry drill bits, specifically for concrete, for stone, for brick. There is a hammerhead action in there, which helps. So when you're using them on the drill, you'll notice there's a selector. You want the hammer action, which is on all drills is a picture of a hammer. That helps the masonry drill. It's a lot easier to cut through. Moving on to hammers. So you've drilled your hole, you're going to hammer in your wall plug to put your screws in to hold the shelves up. A selection of hammers. One of the most popular is the claw hammer, which is a very good hammer. You can pull your nails back out, easy to use to hang in. The old-fashioned ball peen hammer. The idea of the ball peen was for metal work. It's hardly used anymore in DIY really. A lot of people might have one of them lying about from their fathers or granddads. I like the rubber mallet. It's quite good. It's a bit softer when it's hitting things. If you're putting laminate floor down, it's less likely to leave any marks. So onto screwdrivers. Your holes are drilled, everything's lined up and measured. We put the wall plugs in. Selection of screwdrivers always comes in handy. Large flat bladed ones, all the way down to thin ones, Phillips ones. This is a ratchet screwdriver. It's quite popular nowadays. You can have all your bits in there. You have a good variety of bits. And here we have a small selection of screwdriver bits, which we'll zoom into.
Okay, so the screwdriver bits, which goes in the ratchet screwdriver, we have a small selection here. Some small flat bladed screwdriver through to a larger one. But over here, the main difference really is these are the Phillips. So you've got PH2, that's the size, PH3. And here you've got PZ2 and PZ3. These are the posi drive. They're very different how they fit into the screws. So on this one is the 4 points. It's got four, it's like a 4-point star. And the PZ one has got 8. There is another point in the middle there. Makes a big difference when it goes onto the screw. So that will stop you rounding off the screws if you get the right bit or the right screwdriver before you start. A lot of people don't notice that.
And then moving on, we've got Allen keys. A lot of flat packs can come with Allen key bolts. You might get an Allen key in the pack, like from IKEA. I prefer to have my own because I don't like the Allen keys they supply. That's just a personal preference. But Allen keys, it always comes in handy. Pliers, different types of pliers come in handy for plumbing. Cutters for cutting wire. Anything that might need chopping. On those pliers, they come in handy to get into smaller gaps, into holes, to pull a screw out or something like that. Multi-purpose pliers, they do have a cutter in there for the wires. They come in handy. Adjustable spanner, you can have a full spanner set if you wish. Having an adjustable spanner always comes in handy. Stanley knife, obviously very sharp. I prefer this type because the blade comes out and the blade can retract. It's quite safe around there to have stored away. Always comes in handy. Moving on to saws. One of the most popular common hand saws, cutting wood. On this particular saw, you do have a 90-degree and a 45-degree angle. Very similar to what you have on this. But for basic DIY, you can just make do with the saw. As you put that onto the wood, it will give you a 90-degree line coming away. So you can do a pencil mark or a 45-degree line. Always comes in handy. A hacksaw for metal work, whether it be cutting screw heads, bolts, anything of metal that needs cutting. Smaller, more precision wooden saw always comes in handy. You can buy saws all day long and have a big variety. Just need a couple of basic ones. And I think we've covered some basic DIY tools to have in your house to do some simple jobs that you'd be confident in doing yourself.